Humphrey, who has joined us today, and Professor, you're in charge of an academy which you're going to define to us. But with me, we also have two students. We have Cheryl and we have Moi. Thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Professor, you run an academy that is unique. First of all, tell me about it.
Well, it's not an academy. I am the president of the African Federation for Gifted and Talented. I also double as the World Secretary General for Gifted and Talented Children.
Okay.
So I do have in Nairobi a gift and talent clinic.
Okay.
A gift and talent clinic is where we carry out assessment or evaluation to find out potentials of people in terms of potentials in terms of giftedness. For that reason, there's a difference between talent and giftedness. And I think today is a good opportunity to make the country put things right, because talent has often been talked about very carelessly, most of the time confused even with interest and passion. Every human has talent. In fact, Mike, if you didn't have talent, you will not even have any single cognition. So talent is not about music. Talent is not about sport. There is talent in science, there is talent in languages, there is talent in everything you do.
Now, you mentioned, and you've said there's a difference between talent and gifts. What's the difference?
Right. Every human has about 241 genus of talent to be able to work and do things normally. Those talents group up, and sometimes they make many groups, and if many groups are in action, you find somebody is good in sports, is good in academics, is also a musician, and good on what we call verbal linguistics in terms of how you speak and do your work with language. Such a person who exhibits multiple talents in the real world is said to be gifted. So many talents make a gift. So there's a difference between those two.
Okay.
Right. Now, gifted people are very few. They only form about 15% of the world population. Gifted people. Gifted people are not people that you teach something and they understand it in one way. They will foresee it in 100 years to come and different other ways. These are the people that we rely on to plan our economies, to plan our politics, to plan our social fabric of nations. They define our destiny. They're very important. One of them can decide and do something so creative that hundreds and thousands of others will depend upon them. If you're in the United Kingdom, if you're in the United States, and more recently in Southeast Asia, these people are protected by the state. In fact, if you didn't know, a number of international universities, top international universities, if you read keenly what they do, they say, we shall admit some students even if they have no grades or low grades, as long as it can be.
Okay. So generally from what you're saying, it means then there has to be a process of identifying these gifted people.
Right.
Now you, maybe through what you do, decided to concentrate on the younger ones.
I actually do assessment for people aged between 4 years when the brain is fully developed and the last age is 64.
Okay.
Adults too have talent called mature talent, which is combined with life achievement and work experience.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Cheryl here, who's here. What do you understand? What is your talent or your gift?
From a very early age, I was interested in music. My mom actually was very supportive of this. She took me for guitar classes, drum classes, and all that. But my passion lied in guitar mostly, so I actually focused on it. Yeah.
Okay. What is it that made you realize that you actually have a love for it? Because you have many children who'd get a guitar and play with it. But what made it define for you that, you know, this is what I like?
It's because, first of all, I just love the guitar. Secondly, the way it sounds. Thirdly, it's easier to maneuver, and I think most people actually think the piano is the primal instrument, but I think the guitar is actually the primal instrument. So I think the guitar, I actually love playing it the most. So and the sound is basically what's sold for me.
I guess those are driven by the fact that it's a passion that you have for it. So is that gift or is that talent?
Oh, that's a mere talent. But I'll tell you, Cheryl's background, because I've dealt with them for some time. She's one example of typical kids in a normal school that will exhibit certain talent. But if you look at the background, what the parent was saying, they'll start this and change quickly to another. In the end, nothing is successful.
Correct.
So the parents would probably bring this kind of kids because they're not performing in school, are about to drop out, or are about to be fished out by the school. So they're brought over to me because they got a problem. But I'll tell you quickly, in terms of professional who she is. She is right-brained. Right-brained to the upper right side of the brain. That's where performing artists do exist. In order to know somebody's talent, Michael, it is not what we do in Africa. It's not what we do in Kenya. In Kenya, we assess people with the naked eye. The concept of, if you got fever, the first thing your parent do is to go ahead and make a quick conclusion. Hii malaria ni mbaya.
Without any diagnosis or any analysis of what it might be.
By the naked eye, they make a conclusion and they fear going to the hospital because there's going to be a queue there. So, through their knowledge, they think they can buy off drugs off the shelf.
From the pharmacy.
Yes, quickly.
Okay. We'll come to the scientific way of identifying this, and hopefully we can help parents.
Yeah.
Because I know, as much as you said that Cheryl had a problem, it was a problem maybe because they didn't understand what the issue was. But now, once you understand, it's no longer a problem, but it's now seeing how you can highlight and help that. Let's talk about Mwai and what's Mwai's talent.
Mwai, I will help him. I brought Mwai here to make this country understand that talent is not about very clever people. This is always what people think.
And clever here is defined by academics.
By academics. Do very well. Mwai was born without growth hormones.
What does that mean?
That means you can't grow. You might not grow past that size of that glass there. So the parents used everything they had. They sold their houses and took the young man all the way to the US just to make sure he grows. After all that struggle with the child, they discovered the young man cannot learn anything in school. New problem. The next problem for you as a parent, how are you going to deal with a child who cannot even cross the road?
Is this because of a mental disability, physical?
If you're born without a growth hormone, obviously you're not going to grow normal.
Right.
So there will be obvious problems. But that is clinical. That's physical. I'm now talking neural and signal patterns that make you have cognition, understanding, be able to learn and know where you are. That was the new problem for him. So they bumped into me and we carried out an assessment. And I only found a small area of the brain, that was 3.5 years ago, on the right lower side of the brain. We call that manual dexterity area. And that's what I've used. And now he knows who he is. He can play a piano. And you know what? This here is amazing. He can use a computer to do out a project just like the rest.
Okay.
And now for me, that's very good, because for that parent, the worry is when this guy, who is now about 24 years, is getting to 30 and still the mom just to cross the road You can imagine what that means to a parent.
So what you're saying, sir, is that there is a solution to every child,
Yes.
if only we understand
Yes.
scientifically
Right.
what the problem might be. Because I know one of the challenges that parents have is, especially during the school-going age,
Right.
identifying what is their strength. You'd want to promote that, but of course our school system is such that we dwell much more on academics than anything else. And Cheryl, would you call yourself academic?
Yes, I
You excel academically.
I excel academically, but I do not enjoy it. I feel like academic growth isn't the only growth that an individual needs, you know. Yeah, and in Kenya, the education system is more focused on academic growth
Okay.
more than talent.
Now, there are many young people who would be listening to you and possibly agreeing with you, but are you saying academics are not important?
Of course, academics are important. The thing is, people are different. People are different. People are wired differently. Some people will not benefit the world as much if they're in the academic world than, you know, like personally, I feel like I can benefit the world more if I use my talent to change the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Professor, so what's the process now? And at this point, I'd also like to just let those who may be watching at home, I'm sure there are many parents who probably would have very many questions for you.
Right.
And I would like to open up the phone lines in case you'd like to call. Do let's just call, and if you've got a question for Professor, especially regarding developing the talent of a child. And I know it's not restricted to children. There are many adults who are today working
Yep.
and possibly feel like they're in a cocoon which they cannot come out of because they have found themselves there, but they don't know how to snap out of it. But what's the procedure identifying, for instance, now Cheryl's strength, not just being academic, but now going to the music? We'll come to her playing, and I'll want to hear you playing in a short while. But yeah, the scientific method.
There are 3 steps that are carried out to find somebody's talent, potential giftedness as well. Mark, those are 2 things. Step 1 is called oral screening. Oral screening is basic. Just like you walk over to a hospital, you find the nurse or the doctor. They ask you questions, how did you start, what happened, that kind of thing. They're gathering information about you and forming an opinion about the possible sickness. The second step is known as psychoengines. These are models which have been designed by psychologists using their experiences, knowing certain situations. They will have several that now match somebody similar to you, and that today has been put into computer software. That's step 2. It gives a significant amount of who you are. To confirm, just like a doctor too, he has formed an opinion that you could be having typhoid. He will not just make a decision just like that. He will recommend you to go to the laboratory, take a blood test, Widal test, to confirm, yes, it is typhoid, not pneumonia, not malaria. So today also, we do have anthropobiometric machines. Anthrop means human. Metric, you know, is measurement.
Right.
And biometrics, you know what biometrics are. These machines, what they produce what is called body model. A body model, Mike, is you minus flesh, but shows energy channels between your brain and what we call quantum points on your body.
This sounds
quantum
very-
quantum points are like base station. I'll make it simple for you.
Yes, simplified.
If you lose your phone, you don't go to Safaricom headquarters. They look for the nearest base station, isn't it? To catch where the last person used the phone. So signals emanate from Safaricom, but they are cascaded by masts, which they're planted everywhere. So quantum points are termination points in the body between the brain where signals do go. Okay? So once I have that information of how energy in terms of signals are flowing between your brain and your body, I easily can tell this is right brain, left brain, and we have what are called ciphers of intelligence.
Okay.